Good evening. Today is Monday, April 19th. S&P 500 finally had a small down day today. We were down 20 points and traded for most of the day around the Sogi 4150 level. Nasdaq was down 1%, gold was down 0.5%, even bonds were down a little bit. We talked about crypto last week with Andy Aiken. It was a very informative interview. I highly recommend everybody watches it. And during that conversation, he has mentioned that crypto valuations have reached a level where, as he calls it, it's flashing yellow lights as a warning light. And again, he was timely enough to warn people, as this weekend, crypto kind of flash crashed and Bitcoin was down around 15% from 64 to 54 or 52 level, depending on which exchange you looked at. That's another interesting thing about crypto, that different exchanges were showing different prices they traded at the low. It then recovered a little bit, and now we're trading around 57. Same thing happened to Ethereum, which was trading at 25,000 until it went down to 2,000. So crypto was on sale this weekend. One of the news why people were selling crypto is that there are some rumors that Biden administration is considering some rules to regulate crypto. They're in the early stages of developing some sort of regulatory regime for crypto. Nobody knows what it is. At the same time, there are lots of people who are leverage crypto, like Andy was saying. Some exchanges that are offshore, not in US, allow you to trade crypto at insanely huge leverage level, like 10 to 1. And given the volatility, of course, they all got liquidated this weekend. And so that's why perhaps that's one of the reasons for a flash crash. And once they're liquidated, the prices went back up again. In additional news, Biden administration is considering limiting the amount of nicotine in cigarettes to make them less addictive. I don't even know where to begin on this with this one. I mean, I'm not a smoker, but it's just common sense. If you reduce the amount of nicotine in one cigarette, people would just smoke 2 or 3, whatever it takes. And it's essentially punishing poor people because there is a large amount of smokers among the lower economic strata of people for smoking. And then my question is, why don't you reduce the amount of sugar in sweet drinks, in Coca-Cola, or in cakes? Or, if you start regulating people's addictions, there is a lot of diabetes in this country. Maybe we should cure. But, they pick on something that is just silly because you can end up smoking a lot more. And if nicotine is really a problem, why aren't we not then regulating those electronic cigarettes, which also have nicotine in them, just without the smoke? And people end up smoking even more nicotine. So, as usual, the government regulations is just a bit bizarre in that case. And on the other hand, nobody regulates the amount of THC in marijuana that's now becoming stronger and stronger. So I have no idea why they're going after cigarettes, but that doesn't make any sense to me. Victor, what do you think of today's price action? Is this just something mild to start the week, or is this the beginning of a larger correction?
This is a transition day. And in music, when you have the transition between two themes, or between the development and the exposition, you usually go. There are lots of ways of doing the transition, but common to all of them is a movement to a new key, or a tremendous cymbals and drums, something to indicate the transition. And today we were at the Sogi level. We were below it. And then there was a startling move up, shall we say 6 keys, which is the movement to the relative major. We went from 50 to 58. That's the new theme is coming from the 58 level. We should have a tremendous exhalation of jubilance when the verdict for the Minneapolis trial is given. It's 100% that he'll be found guilty in a very high of the murder categories, not just manslaughter. Everybody is afraid to. I remember when the O.J. Simpson trial was announced, there was the same furtive unrest and calls for violence, and with all the police forces being on alert. And then when it was announced that he was not guilty, market went up strongly. So when and of course with the chairman of the House Finance Committee, who's 86 years old, suggesting that unless we get a high guilty verdict, everybody should stay in the street and fight. Uses the word fight, but it's a different reaction to the word fight when it comes from the chairman of the House Finance Committee as compared to Mr. Pele. We're really in a strange interlude right now. The source of all wealth, the source of material well-being has been the pitiless consumer demanding that he get the goods at the highest quality and the lowest price. But we're moving away from that now. Consumers are not making choices anymore as to what they want. They're receiving money for not working, and there are all sorts of boondoggles and earmarks, everything in favor of unions and in favor of the blue states. We're moving away from the enterprise system. That's why I think Matt Ridley's the future of innovation is very important, because he describes how frequently a groundswell of user consumer demand for a product, whether it's for internal combustion engines or cell phones or new agricultural machinery or gene splicing. He describes how in 10 or 12 different sectors our modern economy occurred from inventors often at the same time, and often without people realizing how important the invention is to improve the standards of living. But we don't have that anymore. We have the big corporations are all behind the agenda of the progressives. The U.S. ambassador to the UN there's a horse from the garage. She calls out for the vengeance and the apologies for the U.S. Same as the big corporations, they apologize for everything that's happening. And we had all the grains up through the roof, crude is through the roof. Bonds were down nicely 2 days in a row. They haven't gone down 3 days in a row in a while. The Sogi level was a great buy today. Whenever we got below it, it managed to go up 10 quick points, as it did at the close and as it did many times whenever it got to the 40s. It had whenever there was a close 46, 47, and immediately ran up 10 points. So I think we're at a transition level up, back up to 4,200. Had a nice pause that refreshes. But then when we get to 4,200, all this apologies and all the attempts to take away the basis of the capitalist system, I think it will come home to roost. Of course, I don't know anything about the influence of politics on the market, but when it goes to 4,200, we'll have had 400s and capped, broken from down to up, went from 57, 40, 3,700 to 3,800 to 39 to 40 to 41. Never any dipsy doodle, just went straight up. And that will be scary to me, but my fear will not be realized until we go up another 44 points. It's only 1%. Everything considered today was very strong. It gives one great comfort from the bull side, I think. Okay, that's all I have to say.
I have a quick question for you about crypto, because you always talk about the ecosystem that there are bottom feeders and top feeders in the stock market. So there must be the same situation, same arrangement in crypto. And then who is the top feeders and bottom feeders in crypto? Are these the exchanges? Because the exchanges have control to see who has leverage, how much, what are their books, who has stop
Well,
everywhere. Do you think they could easily use that information?
Yelena, one thing I've learned is that it's the malady of the ignorant to be unaware of their ignorance. I'll be listening to, I think Andy Aiken is the person who is one of the most astute and sagacious, and certainly the most knowledgeable person about crypto that I know. So I'm not going to answer your question, but I'm going to be listening to my brother, excuse me, my uncle Roy. Uh, he's having a podcast at 8:30. I think anyone who's interested could contact him and could be let into it. But I'll be taking notes on it, and perhaps we'll have Andy Aiken answer your question, not me.
And where can we see
I'm
that?
I'm too ignorant.
Where is that podcast? Is that his? Does he run a podcast, or how do we
Yes,
find?
he has a group like I do called like our spec list. He has a group. If you contact my email, and I'll request that he give me the boon of allowing certain worthy people, especially you, into his podcast. I think it will be very educational, and I hope Andy Aiken will review it for us. Okay, thank you, Yelena.
Thank you, Victor. Have a great evening.